What's going on, guys? Just something a bit different today, but in this video I will be looking at 5 things in 5 minutes that I would really like to see in the upcoming WRC Generations game, which releases on console on the 13th of October and then a month later on PC. These are 5 relatively simple improvements from WRC 10 that, if implemented, I think could really make a big difference to the overall experience. Let me start by saying that I'm a big fan of the WRC games, and the core of these games in my opinion is solid. I can't fault the stage variation or the amount of content that was included in WRC 10, so these are really quality of life improvements more than anything. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my thoughts, and let me know if you think I missed anything that bothers you. With that being said, let's get into the list. Number 1. The sound. Probably my biggest gripe with WRC 10 was the poor sound design of the cars. The WRC cars in particular were really not great. And I know from reading forums and even from comments on videos that I've done in the past that a lot of people felt the same way. I find it pretty baffling, if I'm honest, as to how far off the WRC cars in particular sound compared to the real thing, given that the developers actually held the WRC license. How can you go from this to this? Given that they surely had access to these cars in order to make them feel as realistic as possible with regard to the handling. Just imagine how much more immersive the experience would be if the cars sounded as brutal as the real thing in terms of the anti-lag and turbo sounds that you hear when watching WRC in real life or on TV. Number 2. Performance and optimization. This really only applies to the PC version of the game, so apologies if you're on console, but also think yourself lucky because the PC version of WRC 10 was a really bad port. I actually bought the PC version of the game when it was on sale a bit further down the line, and it ran like absolute dog shit, to be honest. The micro stutter and inconsistent frame rate really threw me off when playing, and at times it ruined the overall experience. There was even weird flashing textures and artifacting going on in some locations, which really wasn't acceptable this day and age, given the price that game companies charge for these products. Thankfully, I have heard rumours that WRC Generations runs smoothly on PC, so fingers crossed that that is indeed the case for all the PC players out there. Number 3. The colour palette and graphics. Not usually a game breaker for sim racing titles, so I won't go on about this one too much, but certain locations in particular in WRC 10 looked really washed out and lacked a lot of detail. I think Italy was one of the main culprits for me anyway, as you can see in this comparison video that I did a while back. As you can see, WRC 9 seemed to use a red orangey filter, and WRC 10 was more of a washed out blue filter. The environmental detail was also a bit lacking, given that this was recorded on PS5. If WRC Generations was more true to life in terms of colours, and also had a bit more environmental detail, I think it would be a nice improvement and would make things feel a bit more realistic and immersive when playing. Number 4. General attention to detail and realism. Again, to come back to the level of immersion that you want to feel when playing sim racing titles, there were 2 small things in terms of attention to detail that did bother me in WRC 10. The first was the fact that the clutch pedal served absolutely no use whatsoever when using a sim rig. Now, understand that the WRC cars don't need to use the clutch and are paddle shift, but why does the clutch not even have a function in the older H-pattern manual transmission cars such as the Audi Quattro or the Peugeot 205? You can literally just change gears no problem without engaging the clutch, which makes no sense to me. And the second thing with regard to attention to detail is the driver arm animations when driving in cockpit view. The arms only seem to turn the wheel around 45 degrees in either direction, even when the wheel should be at full lock. Now, I know that these are just minor things, but all these little things when put together can make a big difference for the level of immersion felt by the player, so fingers crossed that they are resolved in Generations. Number 5. Cross-platform leaderboards. So the final thing on my list is for the addition of cross-platform leaderboards and how much fun they could be. Dirt Rally 2.0 already has this feature, and it's really cool to know how your runs stack up against all other players in the world, rather than just the players that are on your platform. It would obviously make world records a lot harder to obtain, but would feel like a much bigger achievement, or if it was anything like Dirt Rally 2.0, even making the top 100 would feel like cause for a big night out with the bros. So that's just my list of 5 things in 5 minutes that, if just some or all were implemented in WRC Generations, I think could make a big difference. I'm sure as usual there'll be tons of content and the stage design will be as varied and fun as ever, and I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on it. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.